lady of rock and soul, Patti LaBelle, live. Friday, March 18th at the Arch Center. Tickets on sale now at thearchcenter.org.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us again here at Just Talking Business. I am Stephanie Van Bark, and I am a small business owner. Before we get started, I want to say, yes, you have to go see Patti LaBelle at the Adrian Art Center. You know how she does it. You know she's going to rock the house. Thank you to our sponsors at the Adrian Art Center of the Performing Arts of Miami-Dade County, who have been a huge sponsor and supporter of what we do. But, just to shout out again, please go check out Patti LaBelle. So today, I met this young man through a friend of mine who we've interviewed before, Jennifer Behar, who is doing what he loves to do for the community, for youth. The most exciting part about it is sports. I mean, it's sports activities. Who doesn't love sports, but is able to turn that into something that serves the community. So we're very excited to introduce Devin Brown of Sports Connect. Hi, how are you this morning?
Stephanie, it's so good seeing you. It's so good being here. It's so good seeing with all your guests.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for agreeing to do this because, I've worked with nonprofits before. I know y'all are super busy. So from sun up to sundown. So tell us really quickly who you are and what you do.
Yes. Again, thank you for having me and everybody for being here. I appreciate all you guys. And my name's Devin Brown. I'm the founder and CEO of Sports Connect. We mentor at-risk youth through sports science and mental health awareness. And 65% of our youth are in indoor and outdoor suspension. So what we do is we provide positive activities, employment skill buildings, and strong adult relationships through mentors. And basically, we allow you to have a safe space to be their best selves. And that's a little bit of what we do in a nutshell.
Well, let's start with you and your personal pivot, if you don't mind. I was looking at your bio, and I believe you studied from Barrett University, sports management and communications. This is a little bit different from the original trajectory. What made you? I also noticed you ultimately did some work in with District 8 nonprofit program, leadership program. Why the switch? When was the switch, or what was the moment that made you recognize I can use what I know to serve the community versus going in a trajectory of sports management?
So after my graduation, so go Barry, go Bucks. Go to shout out to all my Barry alumni, Dr. Rosenberg and Connie Hicks, all my great professors at Barry University, Sister Linda and everything. So upon graduation, when I graduated, I was in a program called the Public Allies. Okay. And the Public Allies program was started by Michelle Obama. She was the executive director for the Public Allies program in Chicago. And at the time, when I was graduating, my mom's like, "Oh, Devin, you need a job. We got to find you something. Sir." My mom's an educator. I'm telling you, she was on the lookout. And she was a great mom, great teacher. Our teacher, she was in the Miami County public schools, and she presented this Public Allies program to me, and I thought, oh, this is really intriguing. It's really cool, and it was a part of the Human Service Coalition where it was now Mayor Cava, Daniela Cava, was executive director for and CEO for Calais Miami, and I looked at it. I was like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. This sounds pretty great. So I interviewed for the program, and I got selected as a public ally. And Public Allies is 18 to 24 kind of leadership apprentice program. And they picked like a cohort about 10 to 11 kind of, I guess they would think, new and upcoming leaders for Miami. And I got picked in their second cohort, and I got selected for a program called the Overtown Cookbook Project. Yes, where it was a high school teacher at Booker T. Shout out to Mr. Jennings, and
I remember that.
Yes, and a Dr. Browne.
Yes,
at the time, he was at the University of Miami,
Yes, I
and,
remember that. They did the cookbook.
and they did the cookbook.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that was my first placement at the Overtown Cookbook Project. I
Very
was
cool.
appointed there. That was my first placement as a public ally to help put together the cookbook.
Very
So
nice.
I helped put together the cookbook. We had 30 kids coming after school, cooking their soul food recipes and making them healthy.
Mhm.
And if it passed muster, it would go into this cookbook, and we dispersed it out to the community. I was able to get us in the food and wine festival on South Beach, and it got us exposure, and copies of the book would actually be funding that would go towards the Overtown Cookbook to kind of sustain the organization. So
Uh-huh.
I was in charge of that. I started a mentorship program there, and that night really caught me. That I bit the bug,
Right.
of kind
Right.
of developing my leadership skills, kind of developing the work,
Right.
and the social work side on it. And yeah, I never looked back. I never
Very
looked.
cool. Is that the reason why Michelle Obama had I think she do the forward or made some comment about the book? I was like, how Michelle Obama make it to Overtown? It's you. It's
It,
you.
it was me. That's right. It was me, Steph. It was, it was me.
Oh, that's funny. Small world. Small world.
Small world. Small world.
So, what is your personal? Do you have a personal connection to sports? And when you started to develop your nonprofit, because you are the creator, correct?
Yes, founder. Yeah, founder CEO.
What made the connection that sports would be the avenue to help serve young people?
So I've always been very athletic.
Mhm.
I played in high school. I went to Palmetto, but I also went to Miami Christian at the time around '03.
Okay.
And Miami Christian at the time, we were actually ranked third in the nation, uh, the same class of LeBron James. And
Nice.
so we traveled to Hawaii. We went to California, all like in the span of like 4 weeks.
Nice.
So that kind of athletic and being an athlete, and playing for Palmetto Senior and being a captain of the team. I really understood the game of sports and how powerful it is. And when I was at Barry, the whole kind of concept of Sports Connect was really a brainstorming conversation that I had with one of my ex professors at Barry University, Dr. Rosenberg.
Okay.
Um, we sat down. He's like, Devin, sports transcends to everything. It's one of those things that
Right.
connects to literally everything. If you think of sports, it connects to cooking, it connects to fashion, it connects to everything you can possibly think of. So I said, oh, that's really interesting. So I said, what, I want to start a organization called Sports Connect and show how sports can tackle social issues and connect to
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the name of it. And me kind of being an athlete, I understood the power of it, that it was just more than a game, that was more that could really tackle social issues and be a sense of healing towards social, and be a big thing for social impact.
It's funny. I've heard athletes say, first of all, that they credit their work with sports and learning a lot of things, including teamwork and logic, and a lot of those types of things, and have really sort of said it is what has made them be successful in life. So I do find this a very interesting dynamic, but it's also on the profit side a very lucrative industry. Billions of dollars each year
Yeah.
goes into ticket sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So, I'm going to say with nonprofit, maybe not as much, but do you find that do you have a lot of competition in that space? And does that create challenges when it comes to trying to fund and support your initiatives?
Yeah, totally. I would say when we're in the nonprofit space, there could be a lot of uh, talking about competition, but we like to say allies. We like to say allies in
I've heard that. I say partners.
partners. And
In other words, competition.
exactly, when it appears competition, because it can get really crazy. You know, when
Oh,
you
that's
talk about
funny.
competition, and it could be like, oh, you're trying to take this thing, you're trying to do this thing for me. So it could get fierce. When you talk about certain competition with each other. So we try to reframe it and kind of say, these are our allies. That
Okay.
we're all kind of in the same fight, on trying to tackle social impact and try to solve social issues. Not one organization can do it all. Not
Right. Right.
one. We all kind of need each other to serve the community, to serve the kids. It just simply we're just not big enough to tackle everything. We'll still miss some.
Right.
So in that regard, there are a lot of there's some allies in there, but we try to see how we could say, hey, you guys are doing this great thing, and you're doing this great thing. Let's put our heads together and kind of make something great.
These things.
So it's looking at. They said there's you can either look at it as a baker or an eater. So like a baker is like they look at pies like, oh, we can make a really cool pie together. We can make all these great pies together and do all these great stuff. Or we're like, see as an eater, it's like, oh my gosh, you're taking my space, you're taking my kids,
Right.
you got this new grant, you're taking now I'm got less funding. It's like this whole scarcity mindset you have, which is like kind of false.
Right.
It's if we can kind of work together, put our heads together and collaborate with each other, it's help and it's financially makes sense because a lot of funders want to see you work together.
Work together.
They want to see you come together because you add different services now. You got to increase more population. So financially, it even makes sense for us to join forces together.
Now, we tapped on something a little bit here. I'm a for-profit, and I have friends that are in the nonprofit world, and a lot of times I just like, I don't understand you people. I just don't understand. But it's what has been interesting. I was saying, sort of after the pandemic, there's been sort of this shift of conversation and mindset around nonprofits having more of an entrepreneurial approach.
Yes.
Before the pandemic, it was really, they were calling it social entrepreneurship. It was really centered around the social aspect of it.
Yeah.
Now there's really been this push of entrepreneurship, I would assume, because the pandemic flipped us all on our heads when it came to that whole business spectrum in total. What have you learned in regards to that, and how have you started to make some shifts in regards to that?
Yeah, totally. The pandemic really had us thinking about and reflecting on what on our organization and thinking about. I guess they say nature is a mother of necessity.
Right, exactly.
All there's these kind of new innovative things come out. At that time. So definitely, we were thinking about some for-profit things and selling certain kind of products and services at the time that could be kind of beneficial due to the pandemic. We had ideas of coming out with certain kits, setting science programs, to different organizations. We added a kind of mental health side to the organization and billing through Medicaid. So we came up with a lot of different kind of switching our mindset to becoming, what are kind of products and services that we can actually sell to sustain, where we're just not depending on donations and grants.
Correct.
And kind of, which is a lot of organizations kind of fall back on, but it could be unsustainable at some times, because you can have this grant 1 year, but then it could go away, or you can have these donations and the donations don't come as big as this year as next year.
Right.
So everybody, I think, looked at what kind of assets they have in their organization and thought about, okay, what assets do we have and how can we turn them into products and services for our organization so that we can sustain. So that was
Now, were there programs out there to help you do that, or were literally just kind of like most small businesses at this time, trying to throw something in the wall and see if it stuck?
I mean, exactly. Yeah, we were like, let's think about what's kind of innovative, blue sky, kind of innovative ideas that's kind of
Mhm.
wacky, kind of cool. Sit down, have these kind of brain sessions with our team, and seeing what are things that we could innovate, and kind of throw at the wall and kind of see what stick and what kind of works.
Okay.
And in that time, we actually created some cool things where we're actually continuing to keep have due to the pandemic, and looks like we're even coming out of it a little bit now,
Okay.
that we're actually continuing to have.
Now, I went to a workshop once with Homeboy Industries, and at the time they had a new CEO who had just come in who said one of the first things he did was restructure how their revenue streams, as you've shared, and please share again with our audience who don't understand that most nonprofits, a large portion of their money comes from grants and donations. But he wanted to restructure, like you said, to really having a very specific focus on revenue and products and services, but to the point of saying only 20% of my revenue is going to come in from grants, 10%. Did you have to get that granular, or was it really just, okay, we're going to try it, if it works then we'll build it from there? Was it more of an intentional strategic focus?
Yeah, definitely. We were definitely thinking from a strategic focus
Okay.
on, what percentage we want to kind of move away from grants and donations.
Hmm. Hmm.
We were having those kind of conversations when it comes to, I kind of say, like, when you're building a business or for profit nonprofit, you're kind of building a house, and you're looking at the foundation of the house,
Right.
of your individual houses, and you're looking at the floors. And the floors that I was looking at is like the fiscal health and sustainability floor,
Hmm.
and thinking about, what are those things, new things that we could, our new revenue streams that we can think about, and
Hmm.
how can we have those percentages of kind of, those things that we can move away from the traditional grants and donations
Uh-huh.
stuff for the organizations, because we felt if we can always have something that we can sell, we can always be sustainable.
Exactly.
So, uh, yeah, we kind of wanted to move to maybe like the 60-70% of
Okay.
kind of having sustainable kind of products and services on things that we can actually sell, and moving up and kind of having less into grants and donations.
A very good strategy, actually. Now you have a board. Um, Most for profits don't have boards. It's advised you have an advisory board, but nonprofits lean very heavily on their boards. What types of needs do you need from your board? What kind of advice, guidance, recommendations when you're looking at setting up a nonprofit? What exactly should you be looking at in your board member?
This is so good. This is so good. So you're so good.
Because some people do families. Hey,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, hey,
family.
auntie, cousin, come on, come be on my board. Come on, let's all join on it.
But are you helping me?
It's like, are you helping me? Are you being in the meetings? Are you showing up? Are you helping me
Exactly.
fundraise? Are you
So
helping me?
right,
Are you
right.
helping me things do things? So no, yeah.
So,
So
how when you're looking at your board members, how intentional and specific are
ah,
you as to what your intentions are, requirements of them?
Stephanie, it's so important. I think it's one of the most important things to think about, especially when you're starting an organization. I think it's an initial first thing, because they're going to be your initial group sounding board, helping you fundraising and really rolling up the sleeves. And
Mhm,
especially if you're like a startup nonprofit, your board is everything.
mhm,
So the things that I like to look for are kind of board members that have a lot of energy
mhm.
and that have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit and a
Okay.
lot of entrepreneurial drive, because you're going to kind of need the energy to roll up the sleeves together to
Mhm.
get the work done. And I like having small business owners as my board members, because they have a lot of energy
Mhm.
and they have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
And some of them also even have certain resources that they can actually bring to your organization. So if you're like fiscal health and accounting and stuff like that is very big,
Right.
for organizations, to making sure that we have great books and everything like that. So having small business owners that own accounting firms and stuff like
Mhm.
that are very good, to kind of bring onto your board, because they can be your treasurer and they can help you with certain books. So I like having board members seeking on those kind of two traits, that they have a lot of energy and that entrepreneurial spirit, usually that are kind of business owners.
Okay. Yeah, that's very important because I know I was speaking to someone just recently on a panel who talked about a lot of people start nonprofits with their family members and haven't really set up a succession plan or an emergency plan, and was asking for advice as to how to incorporate that in your model. Have you thought through those kinds of things, and are those you know has that been an active part of how you're building your plan, both succession and thinking succession or growth or whatever that looks like?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So I kind of have term limits for like kind of like my board members, just to
Okay.
keep it kind of fresh and kind of keep us good.
Oh, interesting.
So I kind of have like term limits, and then there's some that I don't that I'm like,
Keep
you
on
guys
going.
are so good. I'm like, I'm keeping you guys as long as possible
As
because
long
it's
as you'll have me, I'll have you. I'll be
oh,
with you.
exactly. You guys, hey, if you guys want to leave, whenever you guys want to leave, you guys could leave. It's on your say. There's no term limits on you guys because I know how great you guys are, and how phenomenal you guys are. So, if you guys at least stick for 2 years, if you guys want to keep staying, you guys could stay. If not, then
Great.
then 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 we appreciate you and you served your time, and we appreciate what you've done.
So how did you survive? One of the things I thought was interesting that I learned over the course of the pandemic, really, because I had the fortune of interviewing a couple of nonprofits here, is that you're required by your funders to have an emergency plan. Well, one of the things that for-profits has learned is we don't. And so now we've had to completely rethink a lot of things, up to and including not only how we operate, but also up to and including, an emergency plan that will keep you afloat for circumstances because, people close so quickly. How has that emergency plan, how was it essential for you during the pandemic? Or did you sort of learn that you needed to beef it up and amp it up a little bit? It gave you sort of a starting point, but now I need to really make that
So
shift, that pivot.
yes, it's so good. So we're really focusing on making sure we spend less than we make. So
Okay.
we were always kind of holding to that rule. So
During the
that
pandemic or before the pandemic?
before the pandemic,
Okay. So that
before,
served you well.
yes, it served us so well, Stephanie, because during that time, and especially as you knew with the pandemic, a lot of people didn't have that emergency fund. A lot of people didn't have those savings. So then when it hit, they didn't have the kind of cash flow and things like that they needed, the operational cash flow to keep things going.
Hmm.
So luckily in that time, we actually built a really good, because we kind of kept that principle, kind of spend less than that we make. We had a good cushion of kind of savings to kind of sustain for the 4 to like 6 months
Okay.
of during the pandemic. So we were able to kind of keep a cushion for us,
Okay.
um, and now we've really kind of kept that mantra because we see just how
How it works.
yeah, how it worked, and how it really was impactful, and it really was key for us in those times of need. So we definitely kind of hold to that.
Were you able to apply to the PPP loan and be a recipient?
So we actually shout out to the Miami Foundation. The Miami Foundation, they actually gave us as a part of the PPP loan for nonprofits. They kind of give it to us in the form of grants.
Okay. Okay.
That was a part of the PPP side, but
Okay.
they were kind of facilitating that on the nonprofit side.
Okay.
Um, and they actually awarded us some money as a part of the Miami Foundation of the nonprofit kind of COVID-19 relief package,
Very nice.
where we're able to get some of that funding. So we're able to kind of sustain over those months and kind of keep staff employed and uh, keep our space and kind of like our operations of our company going throughout the pandemic.
Now, through the pandemic, I know again on the for-profit side, a lot of people started to really analyze their streams of income. They started in the service sector, in the non-service sector. They were looking at, do streamlining merchandise and products. Did you find that you sort of did a similar thing in your world in terms of streamlining and thinking through your mission, and in doing so, having to shift your um, marketing, having to shift your operations, having to be a little bit more focused? Was that kind of a part of your shift as well, not just the financial, but the model or the mission as well?
Yeah, yeah, totally. So we really leaned into mental health a lot,
Okay.
during this time. As we saw, basically seeing with a lot of our kids, the
Mhm.
mental health side was very, very big that we were seeing in a rise. So we actually really incorporated a lot of the mental health side and really kind of brought that into the structure of what we do. We actually partnered up with Children's Nichols Hospital,
Okay.
where we actually were seeing kids via telehealth. And we were having kind of therapeutic mentors see them during the pandemic,
Nice.
and checking in with them and talking with them, and now incorporating different kind of sports activities as a
Okay.
part of like their treatment, and they're feeling better, and the work exercise and getting the endorphins going to feeling better to help with their stress and the depression and anxiety, and a couple other mental uh, disorders that they were having. So yeah, we definitely kind of switched our infrastructure to more of a hybrid model. Uh,
Okay.
we really kind of pushed that on kind of having kind of staff coming into the office, but also kind of working at home,
Okay.
um, uh, kind of making that infrastructure on that,
Mm.
um, and really kind of incorporating like the mental health side of what we do.
Very cool. And that is still an active part of how you operate today.
Yeah, totally. And those are things that we saw that were big, and we're saying, hey, we're gonna keep this going.
It's really
We really
strong.
kind of like this model and this infrastructure, and I think we'll probably keep it for the near future.
What is your growth plan? What are you thinking your growth plan will be?
So shout out to Jen. We had this, and we were thinking about this. So we like to think blue sky. We like to think wacky. We like to think in outer space that is wacky. So I'm breaking it, Steph, because you're family. So I'm breaking it to you on kind of our big growth plan on something that we're thinking about when it comes to opportunities uh,
Cool.
for us. So I'll kind of let you in on something.
Breaking news.
Breaking news here. We're breaking it here. I'm talking business. Breaking it with my girl Stephanie. Here it is.
It is
So
secret.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Here it is. The secret's out, y'all. Secret's out. So we are thinking about possibly in the works of having a charter school, a Sports Connect Academy charter school
Oh,
to
nice.
possibly open the first one here in Miami, and then possibly implement it across the nation in
Very
50
nice.
states. So we're in the works of opening our first charter school in Miami, uh,
Very nice.
Sports Connect Academy, and a culmination of what we do uh, in the form of a school, of a charter school, and then kind of implementing it for us to be a national organization and going from that way.
When do you feel like that might be a possibility? I mean, is that a 5-year plan, 2 year plan?
We think in the possibly the next 2 to 5 years,
Okay.
we could probably have our charter school open.
Very nice. I think that's a very cool idea. Um, Here's another thing I'm really intrigued by. With for profits, I'm doing a lot of comparing with for profits, but with for profits, our performance metrics is always connected to money. Are you making profits? Are you making sales? Are you making revenue? Are you selling products? Um, I mean, what would a performance metrics look like for a nonprofit if you are one trying to meet the requirements of operating day to day, and as you mentioned, for future goals, are those two different things you're looking at?
Yes. So totally, Steph. So it's so important for so how we kind of measure impact and kind of what we do is kind of look is through surveys to see how many kids are attending, how many kids are graduating, how many kids math scores are going up, how are their reading scores going up, and that kind of data is gold for
Hmm.
nonprofits because when it comes to having that kind of data, uh, kind of that data driven impact is the name of the game for nonprofits on how we become kind of funded
Right.
through the organizations and kind of being bankable. And our kind of banks are, the certain foundations and kind of other kind of social organizations that are out here that are funders.
Right.
And they want to see the impact. They want to see the data. They don't want to just see that you're doing good work in the writing. They want to see it backed up by real data driven stuff that, okay, you guys are doing these science and these sports programs. Show us the data, how kids are becoming fitter, they're becoming healthier, they're improving their lifestyles through the percentages. And we've seen, just from the data, just on the power of sports, that our kids, not only are our kids every day in our after school programs getting fitter and healthier,
Hmm.
they're actually becoming athletes. They're actually making their basketball teams and
Oh, yeah.
being the best players on their teams. They're actually starting soccer programs. The girls are actually joining the cheerleading teams,
Cool.
and making other basketball teams, girls basketball teams, becoming some of the best players. And so they're becoming fitter and they're getting healthier, but they're actually becoming athletes and actually starting programs where they're at in their community, in their schools,
Very nice.
gaining interest. And that's just from the data that I didn't see and doing, but I would say about 60 to 70% of our kids came in not liking sports and not wanting to do stuff are now actively in sports or actively in some type of physical activity.
Very cool. Did you have to learn this on the job training? Was this on the job training for you, or is there some way, some place you can go to get some formal training in, working in the nonprofit sector and as an executive director?
Yeah, so I gotta give this a little bit on the training, but I gotta give a little shout out to some of my groups here. Gotta give a shout out to my Radical Partners family.
Um,
That's down there. Love Radical Partners. I was a part of the Leadership Lab program and great training. I highly recommend them. I was in one of their cohorts. Shout out to the Children's Trust, the Children's Trust
okay.
Institute. They had a lot of great training on there. So those are really two great organizations where we kind of learned of kind of collecting data and showing impact
Okay.
on what we're doing. So yeah, so it was a little bit on the fly, kind of figuring out, kind of building the plane, why it's flying, So it was a little bit of that,
Is
as
there
we
a
all kind of
school for
know.
this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As all small business owners and everything, we just kind of figure it out.
Figure it out exactly
We just do
along the
it
way.
along the way. We just do it and we kind of just figure this thing out.
Look
Uh,
at cross our fingers.
and cross the finger, it works. Oh, is it working? Okay.
Did it
Oh,
work?
did it work? Did it work?
Oh,
Okay.
that didn't work. Let's not do that
Okay,
anymore.
let's not do it. It didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work.
So
Next thing.
fail out, abort,
Yeah,
abort.
abort mission. Abort mission.
That's sad. Sad, I tell you. That is the life of an entrepreneur.
I tell you.
Let's see. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I think we got everything. Even though it's just such a good conversation, I was just going off the cuff, really, but I think we still hit everything. So before you go, I really want to know, how do we get in touch with you? How do we find out more about you, your program?
Yes, please go to sportsconnect.org, www.sportsconnect.org, Sports Connect with a K. Follow us. You can see our website. You can kind of see our kids in action on our website. Check us out on our Sports Connect Instagram page. Follow us. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers. We're getting close. Follow us. Please go there. Follow us. Give us a follow. We got cool content that's over there with our kids and our various programs and what we do. So check us out over there. And yeah, that's kind of the best places to find me. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I definitely want to stay connected. And, of course, if you ever need any connection or anything with regards to what I know, I'll definitely help you out. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you to all your audience and everybody. I appreciate all you guys. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. I'm deeply
And
humbled.
go check them out. Sports Connect is cool.
Check us out. Check us out. Check us out. They're coming.
Exactly. Thank you so much. So thank you everyone for joining us today. This was a wonderful conversation. I always learn something, and I hope that you do too. Again, I'd like to say a thank you to our sponsor at the Adrian R Center, who will be showcasing the Patti LaBelle show on Friday. So we really encourage you to go get tickets. We will be showing a rerun next week because I actually am going to be in workshops all day. So I'm going to show you a rerun, but trust me, it'll be a really good show. And keep checking out. We're going to show Devin more and more and more and more. So thank you so much for joining us, and definitely come back and join us again in a couple of weeks. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.